Hong Kong as it relates to Chinese nationals residents on the mainland wanting to come and take up residence in Hong Kong. There needs to be a different set of strings to play in order to bring about the employment outcome for those mainlanders that are going to come to Hong Kong to work. So this is called the Admission Scheme for Mainland Talents and Professionals, and it's been around for 20 odd years now. And the objective of the scheme is to, quote, enhance Hong Kong's status as an Asian world city. So to attract such professionals, they need to possess special skills, knowledge and experience not readily available, and they have to be able to contribute to Hong Kong with a view to facilitating our economic development, arts, culture, sports, and of course, the culinary profession. So the test for approval, as it is with the general employment policy, special skills, knowledge and experience are valid to and not readily available in Hong Kong. There must be no known record of serious crime. Visa type requires a good education, which is generally a first degree or other relevant qualifications, supported by necessary experience and expertise. Similar to the general employment policy employment visa, there must be a genuine job vacancy, with the market having been labour tested, unless there's a really good reason as to why the labour market wasn't tested. Say, for example, it's a long-standing employee in the associated company in China that's being transferred as an intercompany transferee. Those circumstances, genuine efforts to find a local candidate need not necessarily be positively satisfied. There needs to be a relevant offer of employment, and it has to be relevant, obviously, to the background and experience, and that the bona fides of the local sponsor must be fully made out. Generally speaking, non-well-established companies in Hong Kong struggle to get approvals under the Admission Scheme for Mainland Talents and Professionals, unless it's a really profound sort of project and it's clear that the newly established entity in Hong Kong is supported by a mainland business that's sizable and is coming to Hong Kong for good reasons, and they're needing to transfer an intercompany transferee, or indeed seek to sponsor a Chinese national who's already in Hong Kong under the Admission Scheme for Mainland Talents and Professionals, to get them under their umbrella and get them working for them according. So it's really all about being a well-established business. And the compensation, as always, must be broadly commensurate with prevailing market rates, with the policy intent here, obviously not to hire a foreigner at a price that would basically not be, which would basically put a local out of a job. So if you're a mainland business owner, this program allows you to bring yourself, in a sense, to Hong Kong under the Admission Scheme for Mainland Talents and Professionals. And broadly, this is how it will kind of all work, anticipating that, you know, the company is not yet well established, as I alluded to prior. But basically, there's a sophisticated enterprise in China. They're coming to Hong Kong, they're going to establish a new operation, and then the owner is going to relocate him or herself to Hong Kong in order to implement the plan. So basically, the mainland owner's first step one, it comes as a business visitor, establishes a new company, then leaves Hong Kong, and then applies for this particular visa while they're outside of Hong Kong. The Immigration Department then considers the application and applies the approvability test. The owner must be skills eligible, so that they have to be deemed a professional or a talent as called for under the general approvability criteria for this particular visa type. So that's the mainland business owner. They need to have a significant business plan. They look at it from the perspective of contribution to the economy of Hong Kong and all the rest of that. Good stuff, creating local jobs, properly set up office, sufficient financial resources, good story, and the like. What about if we've got a mainland business executive? How do they avail themselves of status under the Admission Scheme for Mainland Talents and Professionals? Well, they would enter as a visitor, and then the mainland executive undertakes a business visit. And then whilst here as a visitor, using permitted activity as a visitor, you can go through all the preparatory work to sort of lay the foundations on the ground. establish the company, look at offices and the like, and then return to the mainland. And then you would apply for a short-term approval under the admission scheme for mainland talents and professionals. And this would then enable the conversion of the initial preparatory work into tangible new facts on the ground, anticipatory of the implementation of the business plan. So they would then implement the business plan, and once you've got all the new facts on the ground crystallized and you're gaining traction and it's clear that the business can contribute substantially to the economy of Hong Kong, you then apply to extend the admission scheme for mainland talents and professionals. And so these are, in this regard, there'd be expectations that some local employees had been engaged during the early phase of the business, and that application would then amount to a full admission scheme for mainland talents and professional approval, which generally would be approved for 2 years in the first instance. So this is the situation and the process flow where a mainland business executive is seeking to set up a new operation in Hong Kong. And then if you've got a mainland intercompany transferee, criteria 1, we've got Hong Kong business with factories or offices in the mainland. We've got a mainland enterprise with the branch office in Hong Kong, or we've got a multinational enterprise with branch offices in Hong Kong and the mainland. All throughout this intercompany transferee scenario, the anticipation is that the Hong Kong company is well established. So basically, to qualify as an intercompany transferee under the admission scheme for mainland talents and professionals, you need to be managerial or professional. Generally speaking, the Immigration Department are expecting to see that the employee who's transferring to Hong Kong has been working in the mainland enterprise, associate enterprise, for 12 months. The compensation must be broadly commensurate with market rates, and the mainland intercompany transferee numbers that are going to be transferred to Hong Kong are to be reasonable and going to be subject to, obviously, the business needs. So the Immigration Department will look really, carefully at the totality of kind of what's going on, and then determine, exactly whether or not it's justified for to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever, the business plan is calling for. And then just to sweep up with the loose ends on this particular type of visa for mainlanders to come and take up employment in Hong Kong. The visa type is issued as an entry visa. You can't be in Hong Kong as a visitor and then seek to change your status from visitor to employment. If you are approved under the status, you can change employers, but you still have to satisfy the eligibility criteria and the approvability test, both in terms of the bona fides of the sponsoring entity and also the relevant skills, knowledge and experience which you possess in the context of the role that you're seeking to move into with a new employer, and whether or not a local person could be expected to do that work. Dependents are allowed to come under the admission scheme for mainland talents and professionals, subject to normal dependent visa approvability criteria, which we'll come to during the rest of the presentation. And extensions are subject to continuing satisfaction of eligibility and are granted a normal 2-3 pattern. Another loose end on this one is that the passport is not used for the admission scheme for mainland talents and professionals. Rather, the exit entry permit is used, and once the approval notification comes from the Immigration Department, the applicant then goes to the Public Security Bureau, where their household registration is kept, and gets their exit entry permit endorsed for residence in Hong Kong as an employee, and in terms of the accompanying family members for residence as dependents in Hong Kong. So that's the admission scheme for mainland talents and professionals. And the top tier status that I discussed in the context of the general employment policy also applies here. So they too can get a 6-year limit of stay, subject to travel document having the necessary 6 years to be able to accommodate it, and can then have all their conditions removed from their stay in Hong Kong, and be able to switch employers or join in a business of their own on the strength of them having top tier status.